Going on? 5 after 5. I'm feeling quite alive. We rock and roll. It's been a heck of a day. Good old Monday. Even better though. Racing season's back. That was a fun weekend. Winter meltdown at Vado. Oh my gosh. All right, Instagram starting up and we can get this thing rolling. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another empowering episode of Know Your Pharmacist, where knowledge meets innovation for a healthier world. I'm Dr. Joaquin Acosta, your guide on this journey towards understanding and wellness. Tonight, as the CEO of Pharmtrue and your host, I'm thrilled to delve into topics that not only challenge the status quo, but also provide transformative insights into our healthcare system. We'll be exploring pressing issues that echo the voices of those often unheard, using a blend of empathy and expertise. Our first segment, sponsored by Pharmtrue, brings to light the complexities of Colorado's new EpiPen law. We're going to unravel the struggles and triumphs of those it affects. I'll share my insights, combining my deep-rooted pharmaceutical knowledge with compassion and perspective. In Tech Talk, we'll dive into the ECRI's top health technology hazards of 2024. Here, my role shifts from pharmacist to health tech enthusiast, critically analyzing the fine balance between innovation and safety in healthcare technology. Our Enlightenment Hour is not just about information, it's about the revelation of truths hidden in plain sight. We're going to dissect the recent GoodRx FTC lawsuit and contrast that with the GoodRx co-founder bragging about GoodRx saving America $70 billion, delving into the intricacies of healthcare privacy versus public benefit. Wink, wink. Our Herbal Wellness Corner, graciously supported by High Horse Cannabis Company, focuses on the potential of cannabis in treating dementia. I'm excited to share groundbreaking research that can absolutely change how we view type 3 diabetes and this ancient herb in modern medicine. In the Community Spotlight, we're celebrating High Horse Cannabis Company's Customer Appreciation Block Party, a testament to the vibrant community spirit and the bond we share in pursuing wellness. Here this Saturday from 10 to 6 at High Horse's main location. And finally, in our Men's Health Minute, sponsored by Vado Speedway Park, we confront the often ignored impact of type 2 diabetes on men's health. It's a personal passion of mine, advocating for awareness and better health outcomes for men across the globe. Each topic tonight is not just a discussion, it's a step towards enlightenment, empowerment, and a healthier society. I'm here not only as a healthcare professional, but as a human being deeply committed to making a positive impact in each and every single one of your lives. So, let's embark on this journey together, exploring, learning, and growing towards a healthier tomorrow. Thank you for joining me on this adventure of knowledge and transformation. Let's get this night started. All right. Jumping on in. Some interesting stuff right here. They slapped a chest cam or a hidden camera on some pharmacists in some pharmacies in Colorado talking about these EpiPen, psychotic, contradicting laws and things that are happening. So first, let's take a look at the undercover video.
Everyone deserves a healthcare partner who's there for what matters.
Still kind of just nerve-wracking, like thinking if I eat something wrong that it could be life-threatening.
He is one of more than 500,000 Coloradans living with serious food allergies. Tonight, a Denver 7 exclusive uncovering significant problems with the distribution of a life-saving medication, epinephrine injectors, more commonly known as EpiPens.
I just think it's kind of unacceptable that they're like so cheap to make and they're like extremely expensive.
And that expense is the reason why on January 1st, a new law was enacted designed to significantly reduce the costs.
But an exclusive Denver 7 Investigates hidden camera investigation uncovered a rocky rollout in the implementation of the state's new law. Questions about government breakdowns and problems in properly informing pharmacies around the state.
Now, Chief Investigative Reporter Tony Kowaleski unravels the cost-cutting confusion.
Us as pharmacists and us as a company don't know what to do because
you are hearing the voice of uncertainty.
I honestly think most places just didn't know how to handle it. Wow, that sounds really frustrating.
Oh, heck yeah.
Should this video be a wake-up call to the pharmacy board?
Absolutely. I think it should be a wake-up call to everybody that is involved with this process.
State Senator Dylan Roberts reacting to what our hidden cameras uncovered.
I think your videos show a clear confusion.
Video showing local pharmacies confused about this law, co-sponsored by Senator Roberts and signed by the governor last June. A law with bipartisan support designed to significantly reduce the cost of epinephrine injectors for tens of thousands of Colorado families. Were your expectations that pharmacies followed this law?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's my expectation. That was the governor's expectation.
Specifically, the new law acknowledges rising costs of epinephrine autoinjectors make this life-saving medication difficult or impossible to obtain for many people. It says the intent of state lawmakers is to establish an affordability program to ensure Colorado residents have greater access to epinephrine. Here's why. A set of 2 EpiPens can cost up to $700 for the uninsured in our state. The new law intended to drop that cost to just $60 by simply filling out this form. So 2 months after that law took effect, using hidden cameras, Denver 7 Investigates visited several pharmacies in the metro area to see if they are following the law.
You're my first person to do this.
First person?
Yeah, so I don't know what I'm doing yet.
And he was not alone. 8 months after the governor signed the law, and 8 weeks after pharmacies were supposed to sell EpiPens for just $60, our test found the law clearly not working.
Have you heard of it?
No, I have not. It's like we don't know how we would process it on our side to make it be that price.
We heard confusion and frustration from both employees behind the counter and pharmacists.
It's a good thing that they're trying to reduce the price of EpiPens, because paying $300 for one is ridiculous, but there's, they passed that, but there's nothing to actually take that price down.
The Board of Pharmacy just released a thing. Right now, they don't have an answer. So right now, we're all waiting to see what the manufacturers do.
Reaction to what you heard there.
Yeah, now I'm seeing a lot of different reasons why this is not working.
It says to just fill this out and bring it here, and it seems like it's on the pharmacies to just override the price, but we can't. We're not getting any type of payment, reimbursement, nothing from the government. There's no direction as to what we're supposed to do other than try to get in contact with the manufacturer.
She's a manager. What's your take?
Well, she's trying to do the right thing, but she clearly understands the frustration with the lack of accountability from these big pharma companies and a lack of information of how she can fix the problem.
You passed the law. Whose job was it to make sure these pharmacists know what's going on?
The state government oversees pharmacies and pharmacists. I've run this program through the Board of Pharmacy and the Division of Insurance.
There's no doubt our hidden camera covered a landscape pharmacies confused by the new law, but it should also be noted we found a few that were able to navigate the changes.
Yeah, $60. It was more than $300 before, but it brought it down to $60.
This Safeway in Arapahoe County and this King Soopers in Denver understood the law change. Now they're selling 2 EpiPens for $60.
$60 is your total.
We just need to make a few phone calls, but it's not really complicated.
Is that every Safeway? Okay. How come other people can't do that?
I don't know. Maybe they are not trained well.
So we found a place that gets it.
Gives me some hope. I mean, it's a bright spot in a pretty tough set of videos here.
In the end, our test discovered nearly 70% of the locations we visited confused by the new law and lacking the knowledge or ability to sell us a pair of EpiPens for that discounted price.
I need to figure this out, because like I said, more people are gonna come with the same issue.
A learning moment?
A learning moment for sure. We can fix it. I'm sad about the 2.5 months that we've lost already.
We passed it this year.
Has that hidden camera video given you ammunition to fix this?
Absolutely. Now when these lobbyists come and say, it's not our fault, I can point at the video and say, yes, it is. Look at this. This is what's happening in pharmacies across our state. You, as a manufacturer, need to comply with the law and help this pharmacist do their job.
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Responding to what our hidden cameras discovered, Senator Roberts is now reaching out to Colorado's Attorney General, the state's Pharmacy Board, and the Division of Insurance, looking for options to increase accountability and understanding of the new law. It's no accident lawmakers did include a $10,000 penalty for manufacturers failing to follow the new law. And speaking of manufacturers, there are lawsuits in the works right now by Big Pharma attempting to block the cost cutting of EpiPens. Clearly, there are several moving parts, and because we know this financial relief is critical to more than 500,000 Colorado residents with serious food allergies, our promise, our reporting, and our questions will not end here. I'm Chief Investigative Reporter Tony Kovaleski.
So honestly, shout out to this Denver ABC 7 news, because you don't often see these news reporters, so on and so forth, taking these deep investigative dives into the world of just how backwards pharma is, right? But as you can see, pharma does not care, right? Walgreens, it doesn't matter if the state of Colorado says, hey, every EpiPen has to be $60 now. Walgreens is going to say, no, we're going to sue you, and we're going to wait, to see exactly how this is going to go. We're not going to give our employees the opportunity to override these cash prices for these brand name medications that they have thousands of % margin on, literally, right? So, $60 for the EpiPen box, it's a great price. Everybody's still making money. They're demanding anywhere from $300 to $700 per box. If you're uninsured, absolutely bogus, right? So again, in Colorado, that's 500,000 people that are affected by, any sort of food allergy that would possibly need to have an EpiPen on deck. And not only do you need to have one on deck, you need to have one at home, you need to have one at school. Sometimes, if you're in multiple places, you got to have them in multiple places. And that's just how it is, right? It shouldn't be anything that somebody absolutely has to just, pay a full arm and a leg for to be able to have healthcare access to, for just pretty relatively, normal stuff. So beyond that, I commend, Colorado investigative journalism out of ABC 7 there. Granted, all they can see is, you just turn over the rock and it's just, problem after problem. But that's every single part of, Big Pharma right now. So again, what can you do? You got to just keep looking and keep figuring out and keep exposing this little hidden camera deal. I think it was a great idea. Highly respect, the time and effort that it took to make that kind of thing happen. And we'll move on. Curious to see how that one ends up, right? So let's move on to our tech talk. Some other interesting things in the world of medical device technology. Just going over some interesting thoughts here, because when you talk about medical devices and especially the advancing of the technology there, two big questions come to play. Do people know how to use it, and do people know how to maintain it, right? And honestly, the answer is probably no. And do healthcare providers know how to use it, and healthcare providers know how to maintain it? Probably not, right? Most pharmacists, most doctors aren't really dealing with the actual medical devices, right? Pharmacists, the most, difficult technology like medical device that you're going to be able to train a patient on is, blood sugar testing. And I'll guarantee you probably about, over half of pharmacists, if you give them any of the continuous glucose monitoring systems such as, Freestyle Libre or Dexcom, they're going to spend an hour doing research on trying to figure out how to teach this to themselves so they can thus teach it to a patient. So where you think about somebody who's, paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to school and learn how to learn, if it takes that kind of, effort to figure out how to work these devices, it's still just really going through the motions of reading the instructions and then trying to piece it all together, right? So if you're all there on your own, you just spent big time money on a medical device, whether it's a continuous glucose monitor or any of these other, possible devices that were brought up at the ECRI's, 2024 health hazards. It's a very interesting play there where, not only do your medical providers need to get trained, on all the new devices, especially as they continue to come out at a more faster pace, but again, who's it only going to ultimately affect is the customer, unless, these devices were absolutely user-friendly. But, the reality is it can be hard for people, for sure, right? So what other things can they be? Infusion pumps and ventilators, right? Those are really big deals. At-home medical devices named by the ECRI as a top hazard in response to examples of harm such as medication errors with the use of infusion pumps that suggest literally could just be too complex for lay people to use safely and effectively. The group identified inadequate or onerous device cleaning instructions as the second biggest hazard of the year, reflecting evidence that reprocessing failures can spread infection. So, you really think about the repercussions of what can happen with these medical devices. Here's an example. Last year, Philips, they recalled millions of respiratory devices, informed ECRI's decision to name the at-home products as the top risk. Primarily, the safety notices exemplified that it failed to reach patients because it was so jargon heavy and perplexing that users literally found it too hard to understand if their devices were even affected by that recall. So again, literally even knowing those kinds of things, it's out of control. And I tell you, where you see jargon heavy and perplexing, it's jargon heavy and perplexing for your doctors, for your pharmacists, and your medical providers too. So, don't be afraid by any means. But, what ultimately this is, really a suggestion about and a recommendation for, if you're going to, invest in the latest and greatest, newest health tech, whatever it may be, I'm saying do your homework 15 times over before you do such a thing, because not only could you be increasing your risk for infection, you could just be wasting money, wasting time, burning out all kinds of insurance. And that's the scary thing there, because it's, there may be a clever ad or a catchy ad that gets you, and you're like, dang, I have to have this, right? I have to have it. I have to have it now. Let's talk to the doctor. Let's get the script. But have you really thought of the first order, second order, third order consequences of adapting to new technology in your life? How hard was it for our later generation to adapt to cell phones, right? How much is a 65-year-old cell phone user going to be using a cell phone compared to a teenager or 20-year-old, right? I mean, even in the technological, barriers there, you already can just literally reason that that's very appropriate of a question to postulate, right? So again, you don't want to go buy a Lamborghini if you don't know how to use the Lamborghini. You're spending millions of dollars, and then all of a sudden, right, what happens next? So unless, you've got unlimited money and unlimited time and unlimited patience and, perhaps some really, really good acute medical care available, you've got to be very careful before, purchasing big time medical devices and adding these things into your repertoire, unless you have somebody to actually manage it for you that's trained on it, 24/7, who you're going to be, right, paying buku for sure. So facilities, again, this is another, recommendation for those kinds of caregivers in facilities, hospitals, so on and so forth. When you adopt new technology, are we really, adding the onboarding training and really making sure that our medical staff has the, ability to deliver, a standard of care that is necessary and safe for the patient, right? So big things to consider here in our Tech Talk segment. Just a fair public service announcement by any means, not to talk anybody out of things. I really, really love the idea of continuous glucose monitoring systems, but I've lived to see and work with patients who have absolutely wasted, multiple amounts of insurance claims on, wasting the testing devices, whether they couldn't get it to stick or whatever weird issues that they may have. And all of a sudden, you can only get one, right, testing device for every 2 weeks, or however the device is set up, right? Insurance isn't gonna pay for another one until, it's time to renew it. So what makes that, a pain in the butt for people is you might break it on the first day, and insurance is like, all right, you can't have it for another 10, 12 days. Who's testing blood sugar in between that time? And if you're actually on it, then fine. Maybe you've got some test strips that were laying in the back. Maybe you're going to go to the pharmacy and actually purchase an over-the-counter test strip deal, or you're going to wait to call your doctor to get some test strips prescribed, right? And still pay the copay on that. So again, even in those situations there, it is something of concern to make sure that everybody has, actually kind of under control, right? So I think that's a very important thing. Okay, so let's take a look. Continuing on today, in our Enlightenment Hour, GoodRx versus the FTC. I wanted to talk about that as well because an interesting celebratory post came out of Doug Hirsch, one of the co-founders of GoodRx, about 6 days ago on LinkedIn. And he was bragging GoodRx just passed $70 billion in consumer savings, $70 billion that could be spent on rent, food, kids, or other health needs. Millions of people who were able to fill medications someone in their family needed. Damn, that feels good. Wow, let's unpack that, right? For sure, because, how much weight does any of that really hold, right? And you see, in some cases that it really doesn't hold any weight at all. So let's back it up to the beginning of last year, February of last year, the FTC enforcing action to bar GoodRx from sharing consumers' sensitive health data information for advertising. Under the proposed order, GoodRx paid a measly for them $1.5 million civil penalties for failing to report its unauthorized disclosure of consumer health data to Facebook, Google, and other companies. Guys, this is HIPAA. This is insane. Like, I would really, I guess I'm baffled for the fact that there's not some lawyer out there that's like, had your health data stolen by GoodRx without you warning, file a claim with me and let's go take all their money back, right? Like, I mean, if you can do that for practically every other industry, GoodRx should absolutely be dealing with this on a one-on-one customer basis, because everybody has the right to ask GoodRx who the hell they shared their health data with, who they never had the right to do that in the first place, right? So interestingly enough, right, Pharmacist trolling Doug Hirsch on LinkedIn, not naming any names here, it has to feel good when you get to base savings off of fictitious retail prices. That is a banger right there because, absolutely, right? Your average wholesale price is just some weird, made up, absolutely inflated number that suggests how Americans are paying at least $4,000 more than every other, citizen in other comparatively wealthy countries for their healthcare costs, right? Everything is absolutely inflated in the country, especially when it comes to healthcare costs. And at the end of the day, it gets paid, by the taxpayer, by the corporation who's giving the insurance benefits, or by the person themselves, right? Or by whatever federal grants that are sucking money out of those programs to pay for it as well. So when you're at the pharmacy counter and you get, the shock factor of, oh my God, this is not covered by insurance, or oh my God, my copay is so high, and you have the alternative of, hey, boom, boom, boom. The first thing you're going to Google, hey, asthma inhaler for cash, GoodRx, right? They're going to tell you to go Google it on GoodRx and go get it, give you a code, boom. GoodRx, right there and then you're pretty much saying, hey, I'm completely giving myself up, unfortunately, for all types of advertising from, the big tech companies who know how to really figure out what you like. And everybody already knows that kind of thing, right? Log into your phone and hey, I was just thinking about that, right? And I happen to be perfectly targeted for it. And, who is our most vulnerable? Of course, our most vulnerable, adults over the age of 65, right? All of a sudden, it's not just infomercials that are, taking people for a ride anymore. It's just targeted ads at the right time in the right place, saying the right things. And it's all good if you volunteered the information when you're at the doctor's, realizing that, hey, at the pharmacy, I was expecting to do something like this. No, I mean, shouldn't be that way. So anyways, let's talk about the FTC's complaint, specifically, what the FTC found from GoodRx. So GoodRx shared personal health information with Facebook, Google, Criteo, and others. Since at least 2017, GoodRx deceptively promised its users that it would never share personal health information with advertisers or other third parties. GoodRx repeatedly violated this promise by sharing sensitive personal health information, including its users' prescription medications and personal health conditions, with third-party advertising companies and advertising platforms like Facebook, Google, and Criteo, and other third parties like Branch and Twilio. They also use personal health information to target its users with ads. GoodRx monetized its users' personal health information and used data it shared with Facebook to target GoodRx's own users with personalized health and medication-specific advertisements on Facebook and Instagram. For example, in August 2019, GoodRx compiled lists of its users who had purchased particular medications, such as those used to treat heart disease and blood pressure, and uploaded their email addresses, phone numbers, and mobile advertising IDs to Facebook so it could identify their profiles. GoodRx then used that information to target these users with health-related advertisements. GoodRx also failed to limit third-party use of personal health information. They allowed third parties it shared data with to use that information for their own internal purposes, including for research and development or to improve advertising. It also falsely claimed that it complied with the Digital Advertising Alliance principles, which require companies to get consent before using health information for advertising. It also misrepresented its HIPAA compliance. What is HIPAA anyways, right? GoodRx sure doesn't give a damn. GoodRx displayed a seal at the bottom of its telehealth services homepage, falsely suggesting to consumers that it complied with the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, HIPAA, a law that sets forth privacy and information security protections for health data. It also failed to implement policies to protect personal health information. GoodRx failed to maintain sufficient policies or procedures to protect its users' personal health information. Until a consumer watchdog publicly revealed GoodRx's actions in February 2020, they had no sufficient formal, written, or standard privacy or data sharing policies or compliance programs in place. Absolutely insane. So, according to the FTC complaint, as a vendor of personal health records, GoodRx is subject to the health breach notification rule. It lets users keep track of the personal health information, including to save, track, and receive alerts about the prescription refills, pricing, and medication purchase history. GoodRx violated the health breach notification rules by failing to notify consumers, the FTC, and the media about the company's unauthorized disclosure of individually identifiable health information to Facebook, Google, Criteo, Branch, and Twilio. And the FTC issued a policy statement in September of 2021 warning health apps and others that collect or use consumers' health information that they must comply with the health breach notification rule. More information on compliance and reporting breaches under the health breach notification rule are available at the FTC's health privacy page. So, $1.5 million later, GoodRx sure doesn't care. That's for sure. Right? They're just saying that we gave $70 billion in consumer savings, pat ourselves on the back because, it feels good, according to Doug Hirsch, their co-founder, right? So it's very odd how there's just, a really slap on the wrist for these guys. And I still don't think consumers are at a very good point in protection when they use GoodRx for their services, regardless of what they say and regardless of how, you can kind of cover it up with a policy or, paying a fine and something like that, right? There's always a loophole. That's how they make their money. That's how they do what they do. So at the end of the day, I heavily recommend against GoodRx. I heavily recommend working with, independent pharmacies or even like pharmacies like Blueberry or Mark Cuban's Cost Plus, where you can actually see the transparent pricing, models for drugs, right? Drugs shouldn't just be marked up billions of % so that you have to volunteer all of your health data to get them at a lower rate, especially if you're uninsured, right? So many issues there that are not even out of control. Maybe for me, I don't know, right? Could you at least make it for drugs that are addictive and habit forming or controlled substances or something, right? Maybe drugs people shouldn't be on. Fine, target, your opioid addicts, right? Make their lives hell, right? And it shouldn't even be that way. So anyways, it's just, there's no strategy. There's nothing behind it that is actually trying to help these people. You know what I mean? It's a free for all, and it still is. So again, big warning out there for everybody that does use these GoodRx just to get out of a pinch real quick. The repercussions on the back end are pretty odd and pretty unfortunate that can get people really just caught up at the end of the day. That's our job, to protect your health data as healthcare providers, as everything there. And it's just more of the same, right? So whether it's the EpiPen manufacturers like Mylan that are suing the state of Colorado for, trying to make EpiPens affordable for their 500,000 people that have food allergies, they're saying F off. We're going to keep these $300 to $700 a box prices and sue the brains out of you until we figure it out. So, that's our Enlightenment Hour. I don't know, enlightened to the fact that it's got to be extra careful out there. Much love, for sure. It's nice to save money, absolutely nice. But again, if you work with, not corporate pharmacies who have the average wholesale price locked into their systems that they literally can't modify, you can work with independents who can actually charge you like cost plus a dispensing fee. That's a reasonable amount that keeps your private health information all consolidated within their systems and gives you a fair price, because most independents, if not every single independent in the entire world, will absolutely say we will match or beat GoodRx, right? So that's for sure. And there's pharmacies such as Mark Cuban's Cross Plus, Blueberry, that are just straight up transparent pricing model pharmacies. Wink wink, that's the way to go. That's the way to actually shop for medications on a cash-based purpose, right? And people may have many reasons to avoid insurance there, whatever reason that may be, or whatever pickle you may find yourself in. Careful about using GoodRx. That's my pharmacist fatherly advice to everybody with love. So we're going to talk in our Herbal Wellness Corner, brought to you by High Horse Cannabis Company. Everybody, hope you're shopping High Horse 24/7, 365, baby. But we're going to be talking about type 3 diabetes today, aka dementia, right? So, why is this important? Because cannabis, I think, really does have some, positive roles to play in the, therapy of dementia. So let's talk about it. Dementia, a syndrome in which a disease of the brain causes cognitive decline that interferes with independent function. It's usually a chronic condition that worsens over time. Cognitive impairments include memory, thinking, comprehension, calculation, learning, language, and judgment. These impairments often occur alongside changes in emotional control, social behavior, and or motivation. Dementia usually results in loss of brain cells or neurons and shrinkage of the brain. People who develop dementia before the age of 65 are considered to have early onset dementia, though the disease of the brain may begin years or decades even earlier. So, over 55 million people in the world live with dementia. Without a medical breakthrough, this number will increase to 139 million by 2050. Dementia's annual global cost is currently $1.3 trillion and forecasted to rise to $2.8 trillion by 2030. Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia and is responsible for 60 to 70% of cases, either on its own or with other conditions referred to as mixed dementia. In the early stages, memory loss related to recent events and word-finding difficulties are the most common cognitive deficits. As the disease progresses, memory and communication worsen, and eventually the person becomes unable to care for themselves. The neurotoxic brain changes in Alzheimer's disease include inflammation, oxidative stress, and the accumulation of amyloid beta peptides, right, or beta amyloid plaques, and the hyperphosphorylated tau protein, which causes tangles of microtubules or neurofibrillary tangles, right, otherwise known as. The early symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, known as mild cognitive impairment, manifest after a long-lasting 10 to 20 years preclinical phase, during which no symptoms are evident, but the underlying pathophysiology of the disease develops and worsens. For decades, researchers have blamed the destructive changes in the brain on the accumulation of beta amyloid plaques, but now many researchers believe these plaques are more likely an epiphenomenon and not a primary cause of the condition. Current approved therapies for Alzheimer's disease include a category of drugs called cholinesterase inhibitors, the most common of which is donepezil, or Aricept brand name, and memantine, or brand name Namenda, an NMDA receptor antagonist. And unfortunately, these drugs have been shown working only in 68% of people with Alzheimer's. And when they do work, they stabilize cognitive performance for only 2 to 5 months before symptoms begin to worsen at the pre-treatment rate. There's clearly an urgent need for new treatments that can reverse or prevent cognitive decline, and address behavioral symptoms in Alzheimer's disease. So vascular dementia, it's the second most common type of dementia. It occurs when blood supply to the brain is inadequate due to the disease of the arteries, which eventually results in brain cells, the death of brain cells. Numerous vascular risk factors can contribute, including hypertension, hyperlipidemia, diabetes, smoking, and obesity. Vascular dementia can occur after a stroke, but it can also occur more gradually. Vascular dementia may have many manifestations depending on the nature and location of the pathology. In addition, the memory and language difficulties, as in Alzheimer's disease, slowing of cognitive processes, depression, and anxiety and apathy are common. Lewy body dementia is the third most common type. Responsible for about 10% of cases, it shares characteristics with Alzheimer's disease like memory loss, disorientation, and difficulty planning. And with Parkinson's disease, like trembling in limbs, shuffling gait, and reduced facial expressions, people with Lewy body dementia also have visual hallucinations, recurrent falls, and large fluctuations in their level of consciousness. Other less common forms of dementia include frontotemporal dementia, Huntington's disease, corticobasal degeneration. It can be important for patients to receive an accurate diagnosis, especially because one cause of dementia, called normal pressure hydrocephalus, can be reversed with neurosurgery, right? So interesting. If anybody has had a personal experience with dementia or cared with someone with dementia, right? Think about the biggest challenges in doing so, right? What are the most rewarding aspects of the experience as well, right? You've got, almost dementia feeling like a ticking time bomb once that diagnosis goes off. Classic example, right? Is, let's pull them up, Thor. And Chris Hemsworth, he actually retired because of early on Alzheimer's diagnosis, looking to focus on the fact that he had a gene, the APOE4 gene, linked to an increased risk of Alzheimer's disease. So, a notable, case there in a very young public spotlight right there, who has to sit there and manage, the condition. So anyways, where does cannabis fall into this whole equation? Where does, this fit into our herbal wellness corner segment? I think it's important because when you look at data, patients with dementia, cannabis can address actually a variety of symptoms. And let me name for you about 10. Quality of life, behavioral symptoms like agitation and aggression, pain, anxiety, sleep disturbance, and nighttime wandering, low appetite and weight loss, stiffness and rigidity, cognitive impairment, and caregiver distress, literally. So, what's very, very interesting there is that cannabinoids may also exert a neuroprotective effect that could slow or possibly even reverse disease progression in addition to helping with symptoms. As we're talking about CBD and CBG, that's very awesome. And we look at, the Beers criteria, right, for potentially inappropriate medication use in older adults, called the Beers list. These are actually guidelines, right, to help us avoid prescribing and giving out medications that have a high likelihood of harm in elderly patients, such as, increased fall risk, increased dementia risk, right? Despite strong evidence of the danger, these Beer medications list of medications actually continues to be widespread. And one study found that 34.2% of the United States community-dwelling Medicare beneficiaries over the age of 65 were taking one of these medications. And here are the most common and their typical uses in patients with dementia. Tricyclic antidepressants such as amitriptyline and doxepin, used for depression, sleep, and neuropathic pain. Highly anticholinergic drug, right? It turns off all of your body's ability to, secrete anything, right? Also increases your risk of dementia, sedation, and can cause orthostatic hypertension. Other things very commonly seen in these populations. Antipsychotics such as risperidone or olanzapine. These are used for managing things like agitation, problematic behavior, or sleep disturbance. They increase the risk of stroke, greater the rate of cognitive decline, and mortality in persons with dementia, and increased risk of death. And, you see these antipsychotics especially prescribed in nursing home settings where people just want to sedate the patient so that they don't have to worry about them anymore, right? It's like, oh, wow, old Sue or old Johnny is over there and he's just, a little too much today. Let's go ahead and increase our risperidone dose because Why? We just don't want to see them so active, right? And sadly, but true, and in a lot of cases, agitation, problematic behavior, or sleep disturbance, that's just a way to just kind of sweep it under the rug. And what happens there is just increased decline at a faster rate, and it's ugly. Other ones, benzodiazepines like Valium or lorazepam, common, right? You see these in Granny's closet, as much as it could be Granny's little helper, it really could be, Granny's, final medication. Used for anxiety, problematic behavior, muscle spasms, sleep disturbance, increased risk of cognitive impairment, delirium, falls, fractures, and motor vehicle accidents. Other ones even more common, NSAIDs like ibuprofen and naproxen, used for pain, increase the risk of upper GI ulcers and bleeding. Occurs in 1% of patients treated for 3 to 6 months, and in 2 to 4% of patients treated for a year. Skeletal muscle relaxants such as cyclobenzaprine or Flexeril, baclofen, right, used for muscle spasms or sometimes for sleep or pain. In terms of Beers criteria, I've talked to a patient before, didn't actually read the instructions very well about the muscle relaxer medication, and this was an older lady, and I had talked to her and her daughter. Older lady came in black in the face because she tripped and fell outside, completely on her face, and we were actually doing a clinical cannabis consultation, and we looked at the medication list, and after some investigative pharmacist work there, we realized that she completely outdid her dose on the muscle relaxer, which she shouldn't have really been prescribed in the first place. It's in the Beers criteria list. You don't need to be giving these to adults over the age of 65. There's other ways to go about things, right? And so, you look at those fall risk complications. You could be breaking hips, breaking knees, busting your head, getting concussions. Those kinds of things don't recover very fast in your older adults, right? Only increasing, that further progression of, diseases, inflammatory conditions, so on and so forth. Other medications, right? Such as opioids, morphine, oxycodone, tramadol, your synthetic, used for pain. We all know what they're for, but do they also increase risk of falls, fractures, sedation, and delirium? Sure, they damn do. And literally poor efficacy and high risk in this patient population. And that is absolutely, for whatever reason, a standard there for a lot of these patients, right? And so you look at what the heck is going on. Cannabis is truly an appealing treatment alternative. So beyond literally substantially improving a patient's quality of life, often in the context of rapidly deteriorating quality, the efficacy of cannabis in reducing or resolving severe agitation, aggression, exit seeking, and nighttime activity has profound beneficial impact on the entire household or facility, and certainly on caregivers. I say facility with hesitation because most facilities do not allow THC in them. CBD and CBG, otherwise fine. Facilities will not take THC in most cases right now, unless they're absolutely set up for it, which is pretty unfortunate, but I understand because they have federal funding to worry about and maintain. So the system is just not absolutely optimized yet to be able to include better options for patients that might leave them a little less sedated and delirious in the morning, or actually perhaps even protect their brain without giving them some sort of anticholinergic medication or some addictive and habit forming medication, right? These medications that truly have no good use for anybody. So we really look at the brain and everything within it. I've got a interesting little picture to share with you here. Let me see if I can pull this onto the screen in any sort of effective way. Sorry for my 2 seconds of this, but I hope to provide some value. And so really looking at, what this kind of leads to is, yes, Pharmtrue has absolutely came out with a version of gummies that are designed to be low-dose THC, low-dose CBD, low-dose CBG to help with dementia, right? To help with neuroprotective effects based off of clinical evidence and based off of the things that we really want to see, right? So let's get this thing going. And I don't know why I'm having a weird issue sharing this image. And so perhaps I'm just going to leave it because you got people waiting. So let's just take a look. First, the function of the endocannabinoid system, or the ECS, right, has been shown to decline during aging. So this is where cannabis comes in. CB1 receptor expression and 2-arachidoglycerol, or 2AG levels, decrease in the brain tissues in older animals. Since the endocannabinoid system is such a crucial regulator of physiology in the brain and elsewhere in the body, this fact alone suggests that supplementing with cannabinoids could be very helpful in a variety of age-related conditions. This theory has been especially well demonstrated in animal models of dementia, right? We want more human data, but we take what we can get and we run with it. Numerous in vitro and in vivo studies have demonstrated that CB1 and CB2 activation at non-psychoactive doses have beneficial effects in experimental models of Alzheimer's disease. First, numerous behavioral improvements have been demonstrated in animal models of dementia, including decreased agitation and aggressiveness and increased food intake. These are less exciting to talk about because, again, you want to also see the other behavioral benefits that have truly been shown in human patients, so we're going to get there, right? Beyond that, the physiological effects of cannabinoids in dementia are compelling and give hope for profound benefits in human patients that go beyond literally mitigating symptoms. And since dementia, especially in Alzheimer's disease, is caused by a combination of factors including neuroinflammation, mitochondrial dysfunction, metabolic dysfunction, and more, an effective treatment likely involves targeting several aspects of the disease, and cannabinoids literally do just that. So, in models of Alzheimer's disease, cannabinoid receptor activation has been shown to reduce the harmful effects of amyloid beta peptides and tau phosphorylation, and to promote the intrinsic repair mechanisms of the brain in models of dementia. Excuse me. The endocannabinoid system can correct neuroinflammation, excitotoxicity, mitochondrial dysfunction, blood flow problems, oxidative stress, and more. There's literally data and research. There we are. I got what I needed. Haha. So take a look. Bada boom, bada bing. Behavioral effects in the brain. And these are what happens when cannabinoids are added, right, to your, mechanisms of action for what's actually going on. So decreased agitation, decreased aggressiveness, increased food intake, cognitive improvement shown in animals. But, you really take away all of these other, complications of Alzheimer's disease, you can already expect, you're going to be sleeping better, you're going to be less inflamed, your mitochondria, your neurotransmission, your anti-amyloids are all literally having great effects. You're getting better blood flow in the brain. You're decreasing your inflammatory effects such as cytokine release and microglial reactivity, right? Tau phosphorylation and tau kinases activity down. This is just a very, very great holistic looking sample of why cannabinoids actually really work when it comes to, looking at the brain, right? So beyond these mechanisms involved in addressing the many causes of Alzheimer's disease, one of the most important topics in the preclinical research is, can cannabis reverse or even prevent the progression of cognitive decline? A number of studies have answered the question with remarkable results. So one rodent study demonstrated that THC at 3 milligrams per kilogram a day, a relatively low dose, reversed age-related cognitive decline in mice aged 12 to 18 months. After once daily treatment for 28 days, the old mice not only behaved like young mice, the density of neurons in the hippocampus increased, and the gene transcription patterns of THC-treated 12-month-old mice closely resembled those of untreated 2-month-old mice. Fascinatingly, a similar study using a single ultra-low dose of THC at 0.002 milligrams per kilogram in female 24-month-old mice improved performance in 6 different behavioral assays of memory and learning. The treated mice scored similarly to untreated 2-month-old mice, and the beneficial effects of the single dose lasted for 7 weeks. The remarkable benefits of this single ultra-low dose of THC is subsequently investigated in other studies, including a model of familial Alzheimer's in which it also reversed or partially reversed cognitive impairments of old mice 3 weeks after the injection. The researchers discovered yet another mechanism by which THC was helping: improved TRKB receptor expression, which allows the brain-derived neurotropic factor BDNF to do its work of stimulating neuronal growth. The ultra-low dose of THC has also decreased brain inflammation, and yet another response to a single ultra-low dose of THC in old mice with cognitive decline was reported in September 2023. This study looked closely at the gene expression patterns in the brains of 24-month-old mice and found that 5 days after the treatment, the old mice were expressing genes associated with growing new neurons, and after 5 weeks were expressing genes related to neuronal differentiation and survival. All of this literal preclinical evidence makes a strong case for the use of cannabis to not only address the symptoms of dementia, but to correct many underlying disturbances of the brain and potentially prevent progression or even reverse the disease process. The data on the effects of ultra-low doses may be hard to translate to humans, but I suspect it means that in people with early cognitive impairment, doses of cannabis much lower than those needed to treat symptoms in advanced dementia taken infrequently, once daily or even once weekly, may be able to address the preclinical stages of Alzheimer's disease and help prevent progression to the clinical stage of the disease. So how important is that, right? Super important. And, talking about today, Alzheimer's disease, dementia is known type 3 diabetes, right? We've got so much unaware, pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes and prevalence here, especially in the state of New Mexico, especially in the United States as a whole. It's ridiculous. And so we look at, the further on costs of dementia and Alzheimer's and, in our healthcare costs in the country. A lot of these are going to be post results to unmanaged hypertension, unmanaged cholesterol, unmanaged diabetes, all in one, getting you to a point, right? So can we absolutely try to follow the Healthy People 2030 goals of set here by the United States of America that we're trying to really absolutely hit for type 2 diabetes, dementia, Alzheimer's, so on and so forth? Yes, right? One of the first things that goes into all of it becomes awareness, right? Do you even know that these are precursors to this, right? Would that perhaps maybe make you that much more inclined to get checked or be treating your pre-diabetes, right? If you're at that stage, you could actually really, really prevent a heck of a lot of cognitive decline by not getting to type 2 diabetes, by managing hypertension, by managing hyperlipidemia, right? By managing all those things up front and not even getting to that point. But if you get to that point, how do we start kind of working backwards from there? There is hope. There is perhaps a solution. It's definitely not donepezil. It's definitely not memantine. It's definitely not benzodiazepines or muscle relaxers or NSAIDs, right? All of these things are absolutely toxic, to our aging adult population, especially, those who already have cognitive decline, with poor health status. So, how do we battle it? What is my solution? Well, I'll show you right now. And so, we've kind of given these a little bit of a highlight before on this Herbal Wellness Corner segment brought to you by High Horse Cannabis Companies, but really looking at the Pharmtrue memory gummies. We came out with, I think, the coolest clinical innovation when it comes to memory health in the entire country, perhaps in the world, because you're not going to see this kind of thing anywhere, right? And so, how did this come about, right? Well, we've got studies to cite it, but we've got a stage 1 and stage 2 gummy dosing for not only both, dementia at a smaller level, but at a harder to manage level. So these are 8 milligrams of CBD and 2 milligrams of THC in our Memory Spark. This is to be taken once in the morning and once in the early afternoon. And then in the evening, you've got the Memory Soothe, which compromises of 5 milligrams of CBG and 2.5 milligrams of THC. So not only does that help to sleep, but it also helps for the neuroprotective effects in the brain, because CBG has a whole bunch of anti-inflammatory processes. CBD also has it, but we like CBD during the day because it is less, sedating. And a combination of CBG and THC is actually nice to help our adults rest. When do you get your best, healing in your body? It's during sleep. It doesn't matter if you're old or young, right? You need to get your sleep. And oftentimes that is one of the first things to go, right? And so if these lower doses aren't enough, we even got our memory ignite and memory calm, doses. Memory ignite, 5 milligrams of CBD and 5 milligrams of THC in the morning and afternoon. And then the evening dose is memory calm with 10 milligrams of CBG and 5 milligrams of THC. So as you can see, we balance in a more one-to-one ratio of the CBD and the THC during the morning there. And what are we looking at, right? We are looking at literally the research here of low and moderate THC doses. You can go check this out on our blog, on our page, Pharmtrue.care. Go click on the learning tab. We've got a whole myriad of clinical info from autism to cancer, all free dosage guides for tinctures, inhalation, vaporization. We've got, the scientific backing and the rationale for all of our products, our 1-to-1s, our triple ones, our new memory gummies, right? Awesome stuff. So anyways, continuing on, research shows that THC doses from 2.5 milligrams anywhere to 25 milligrams can effectively reduce dementia symptoms and are generally well tolerated, right? We know it takes anywhere from 2.5 milligrams to cause psychoactive effects. So that's why we do not want psychoactive effects during the day. And you see those stage 1 gummies at 2 milligrams of THC balanced with the 8 milligrams of CBD. Synergistic effects of THC and CBD help to, yes, enhance the therapeutic effects of THC while reducing the THC psychoactive impact. But we want the THC in there because, yes, it is your bliss molecule. It does help with some agitation and aggression that can sometimes be cited when you're so confused and you're in a dementia state, right? Why do we include CBD? Because it's neuroprotective properties. In the doses, in the evening, it helps to promote, yes, restful sleep in addition to supporting memory through cognitive rejuvenation. Cannabis use in dementia care, as we already showed, and we've got studies on the bottom. Feel free to go click through all of them, read them, and understand it. If you want to absolutely call me out or give any other feedback, I'm ready for it. But let's talk about it. This is important to me, right? And this is what makes us different, right? And this is what it's all about. So, wealth of studies, improved behavioral symptoms, reducing agitation, aggression, and wandering behaviors in dementia patients. You're staying asleep, staying happier, staying more blissful, able to recover, in the brain. If you're already in that state of agitation and aggression, all it's going to do is compound. Your brain is going to keep feeding those things. Neuropsychobiology takes you to those places. Your brain starts to create those pathways, even if it's, not working right, and it'll start, feeding into that even more. So how do we, reverse on that? We want to see improvements in cognitive abilities as well as daily living activities, which literally just overall supports memory function, right? If you're not spending your day being, aggressive, mad, tired, all these things, plus adding in anti-inflammatory benefits, plus getting off these other medications that are only exacerbating these issues, we're already seeing compounding effects of good stuff, right? So how can you do it? Start with stage 1, go up to stage 2. The thing is, with these gummies right now, if you're in an assisted living facility or a nursing home, you're not going to be able to take the THC gummies in there. That's crap, right? I mean, you can talk to administrators and try to figure things out. Maybe you'll find a home, probably less than a count of 5 in the entire state that might work with you on those things. And those are the places that we need to figure out how to have better interventions, better education, right? And really get the understanding of, what the heck are we putting into our patients, right? Just to take some pressure off of the caregivers, right? Caregivers are taking money from the patients so that they can sedate the patients and not have to deal with them. That's bullshit. That's not okay. That's not okay, right? I absolutely, can remember a time where my abuelito was found after I don't know how many days on the floor in his, nursing home, God bless his soul and rest in peace, that, he was completely unattended to. And it's not to put all nursing homes under a rug, right? But, where can you actually, fix some things and not just take the easy way out? And for whatever reason, a human being is very inclined to try to find the easy way out. And Big Pharma is very inclined to try to make sure that nothing else has an easy way in. So anyways, an educated and enlightened mind could absolutely help to, change some of these. And these are, systemic changes that hopefully, within a few years, we can probably start to see, some real added benefit from it. I think there's one clinic in New York that actually has a model where the physicians or the healthcare providers in the facility do prescribe medical cannabis for their patients, and then they can regulate it as such. And that is a very cool model. However, New Mexico has not been quite that innovative yet, regardless if our cannabis laws are much looser than New York. So whatever it is, New Mexico, we got to figure something out. Anyways, if you guys want to talk to me a little more about any of this stuff in person, come see me this Saturday at the High Horse Cannabis Company block party. It's going to be awesome. I'll be there. I'm going to be giving blood pressure and some health screenings. I'll be giving medication management consultations. We'll be having fun. Not only are you going to see the awesome, bikini bud tenders and High Horse staff, guys, we're going to be out there at the North Main location rocking it out, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. this Saturday. So our community spotlight brought to you by the Big Chicken Farm, celebrating and commemorating the High Horse special, block party. Always love me a good block party, right? So let's absolutely get ready to rock the block for sure. And I guarantee you, downtown, we're going to be winking out some hella block parties here, this summer, and I will be absolutely ready to fire that off here. You know how we get down in that downtown building, but right now, while we share the space, it's just not quite the same. So once it is what it is, it's going to be popping. But for now, we are going to be getting it absolutely popping over at High Horse on Main Street. Guys, shop High Horse 24/7, 365. Go check out the main store. I'll be there Saturday. Vote for us in the SEs. You got until the 25th. That's next Monday to vote. Please scan it. Please vote. Me, High Horse, Pharmtrue, guys, we've got a lot of different places there where we can just completely go sweep this thing and let's go get it done and, commemorate some of the hard work that we put in all year long for sure and show the state, really what it's all about, because nobody's doing what we're doing. That's for damn sure. And I'm very proud of what I do. So last things last, guys. In our Men's Health Minute, what do we want to go over today? Well, we're going to be talking about the unspoken impact on diabetes and men's health. And as we already kind of talked about type 3 diabetes, guys, big deal, of course, but men that are not treated for diabetes, what other things are we going to be experiencing or seeing? You're going to be absolutely experiencing, erectile dysfunction, low testosterone, prostate problems, urination problems. So again, where we talk about, if you're seeing the urologist for any of these things, you really could be experiencing secondary effects to other things such as type 2 diabetes, right? So again, as we try to continue to increase that awareness, it's only that much better we all like to save money, right? Let's be more proactive on the front end. Let's go take care of our health, right? Because you might just spend all your retirement amount, you might spend all your retirement paying for things that were absolutely preventable while you were younger, or absolutely a little bit more manageable. So I'm just going to put it to you that way and put the ball in your court, right? We all like to, save money. Sometimes it's a little harder to cook at home. Sometimes it's a little harder to, go check on your health. But again, does it pay off? Does it compound over time? Is it going to save, your retirement funds from being absolutely eaten up by the medical system, who is just built to take it all while you go die? And that's a shit way to put it, but I hope that's motivating a little bit at the very least, right? A little bit of harsh reality, hopefully can just be a little bit awakening, and do what we can do. And again, anything I can do to help any single one of my guys or families or anything that it can be, I'm absolutely here, 100%. Hit me up and I will get to you. And otherwise, that's it for today, guys. And I hope you guys have a great evening. Happy Monday. Selection Sunday was yesterday. I don't know who anybody's got in the tournament. I have no idea who I have in the tournament, but we'll see. Anyways, have a great night, guys.